Guys, in this episode, we're going to be going into the mentality of how to start a business from scratch and how to make that scale without overscaling and over-leveraging your business. So stick around.
Hey, this is Bridger Pennington, Chris Nog,
Sherrod, Alex Casala, Jamie Miller,
Matt Pocaro,
Tanisha Spencer,
David Olds, Drew Hitchcock, and you're listening to the Investor Semester Podcast with Jeremy Davis.
Welcome to the Investor Semester Podcast, where the nation's best investors come to level up their game. I am your host, Jeremy Davis, and whether you're locking up your first deal or scaling with creative finance, I am here to bring you the real conversations, the real strategies, and the exact playbook that the top investors are using right now. Most of our listeners are already inside the private community, but if you're not there yet, just go to investorsemester.com to join. And now for the show. Clay is the founder of Abode Homebuyers and has been investing full-time since 2009. Completing over 600 real estate transactions. He started as an agent and a broker before moving into acquisitions, renovations, and development across residential and commercial projects. Today, he owns a large portfolio of multifamily properties and mobile home parks, while also being a devoted husband and a father of 5. I'll tell you real quick, guys, off the record, that intro was fantastic for Clay, but Clay has also been one of the most prolific wholesalers and company builders here in Utah. And I will say this on the record, he was one of my role models early on when I moved to Utah. So it's been an absolute honor to have him on the podcast. So guys, let's welcome Clay Rockwood to the episode.
Hey, so Jeremy, I'm humbled. I appreciate that. And you've been a great friend. So I appreciate being on here and giving the opportunity to help your audience.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. So like I said in the intro, there's a lot of things that you've done. You've built out multiple businesses. At this point, I think it's just clear to say that you're a serial entrepreneur, right?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. I've done multiple things. Yes.
So I obviously want to talk about those, but something that stands out to me the most is that when I came out to Utah from California, I remember there were 3 main companies and you were one of them. And at the time you had a partner and you guys were crushing it. You guys were doing more deals than 99% of the companies in the nation. And then you decided to shut it down. And then both of you guys decided to restart the acquisition business, but separately, but yet you're still tied up in other businesses and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I would really love to just kind of dive in and I'd love to hear the backstory about like how you guys had that discussion, because a lot of people, when they shut down their business, it's very few times like the emotional decision they're trying to make. It's almost like they're forced to do it. And it seemed like you guys just actually ran the numbers and identified that this is not the right opportunity for both of you. And let's take a pause. And then you, again, build another business right after that is now flourishing once again. So yeah, if you don't mind, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Happy to. So yeah, Brian and I met back in 2017. I'd already been in real estate as an agent and a home flipper for several years. He and I met in 2017 and decided to kind of partner up and start wholesaling, right? So at the time the market was heating up. And it was just, like most people that get into wholesaling, it's harder to find deals. So we had to do our own marketing, right? But yeah, we kind of had, built a large scale team. I shouldn't say large. There's obviously companies out there that are running massive teams, much larger than ours, but very, large team, high overhead. I think at one point we're just to break even, we were over $100,000 a month in payroll and marketing and, all this stuff. So,
yep.
So I think really what happened, and when the market was good, things were going well.
Real quick, you're the only one that I ever saw that wrapped a bus.
Yes, we did. We tried every sort of marketing channel. We did bus, we did TV, obviously, we did radio, we did everything. I mean, we tried everything under the sun and kind of a shotgun approach, which the buses did not work. So do not do buses for real estate marketing. It just was not effective. Anyway, but yeah, we ran a really good team. Really what happened is the market shifted and things got, it was really the time when, the market was super competitive. We were running a big team. Overhead was high and we were kind of just like getting burned out. Like it was super competitive, harder to do deals where the margins were very slim. Profitability was low just because we had such a big operation. And we kind of were just looking at each other and like, I don't know if this is what we want to do. Like, it's not what we thought it would be, right? You hear all these, because it's always this, scale bigger, do more, do bigger. Like, that was always the guru pitch, which I've changed my mind on that. But over the years, we had started buying rentals, right? That was always my thing when I got into real estate. I wanted to own real estate. That's why I got into this business. It's not just to transact real estate transactions, but to actually own the real estate. So that was always a goal of mine. And we'd buy duplexes, fourplexes, things like that. So Brian and I were buying deals over the years and doing really well. And so at the time we kind of made the decision, hey, let's kind of pause the wholesaling thing. And let's go out and start chasing bigger commercial deals, big multifamily, mobile home parks, things like that. So we actually went out and for two to 3 years, that was our main focus. We kind of stopped all acquisitions, all marketing for, wholesaling and flipping, and just focused on the larger deals. Now, there's a whole nother story about that, how that turned out. But really, learned a lot of lessons through that period of time as well. And the grass is always greener. I would say that's kind of the mentality we had, well, this is hard, so let's go do that thing that looks a lot better. Right. When you get into that thing, you're like, oh, this is hard too, just in a different way. Right. So yeah, we bought several deals, larger deals. It still own several of those deals, raised capital. So we kind of got all in on, we've probably raised over $10 million just in that year of, buying deals from investors and things like that. And then really once the interest rates changed, market changed, the commercial side just died. No deal flow, no deals penciled, nothing made sense. So that's when kind of Brian and I kind of had a heart to heart and really decided, hey, let's stop doing this. And maybe we want to go our separate ways and try some different things. Right. So again, it was an amicable breakup, no animosity. We still own properties together. We're still friends. But it was just kind of a good timing to say, hey, I think this is a good time for us to go off and do our own thing. Mm-hmm. And then since then, I've basically rebuilt my own wholesaling company back up. And we can talk more about that, but so much smaller team, very different than I did it the first time.
Yeah. It's funny that I've been in the same position as you, except it was not a polite breakup. It was definitely a hostile breakup. And sometimes that happens. If you're not having open communication and maybe one person is more emotional than the other, it doesn't always go well. And so for me, I had my business that I started where I was solo. Then I had another person come in saying they wanted to partner with me. And I said, and this person was lifted up to being one of the top players in the market. And I was honored. I was oh my God. Turned out to be that it was a little bit dishonesty on his side. I found there was approximately 122 deals that the guy did behind our back. Oh, and so my acquisition manager at the time, he became my next partner. And because he was there, he knew my business, it became convenient. And so he was my integrator. So he ran my systems. And then it's kind of funny that when the market shifted and appreciation was not as strong, and you and I probably know exactly when that was, end of 2022, beginning of 23. And he wanted to get out. And instead of having a nice conversation, it was more of a hostile quitting. And the guy took the passwords with him and locked us out of our systems. And that was all right, I'm starting over again. And hired a COO. And then that guy didn't work out. And so I will say this though, by helping out a bunch of students with starting their businesses from the ground up, you and I both know kind of how to do this the right way. And I'll tell you this, I think the common factor here is we don't want to focus on going big. It really is trying to streamline this and trying to be as, slim as we possibly can, because that's where you get the biggest margins. And you said you were at $100,000. The most I got up to is $57,000 a month. Yeah. And even then you've got to have all your acquisitions dialed in. You've got to have, the system has to be running super smooth. And if one key player quits, it all starts to tumble. Yeah. And then,
Yep. So I've been there.
Okay. So now the time comes and you're like, let's do this again. Let's talk about this. If you were talking to a new investor, a new wholesaler, remember, when we say wholesale, guys, that is just only one exit strategy. But what we're really talking about is a sales and a marketing company, the ability to identify properties at a discount. So when you approach this, now you're coming into this logically and you're like, I want to build another business again. What was your first approach?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I had the intention when I started again, was I want to do this in the right way, in a way that's efficient, and controlled. Because I think in the early days, when Brian and I started, that was in the early days before there was even systems and out there and software out there to help, and even data providers. Like we were literally scraping data from, you know, county courthouses, going
Sure.
manually to courthouses and pulling lists, and, you know,
List
like
source was like the only one.
list source. And even then, you know, so it was just a lot more work back then. Nowadays, it's so much, honestly, it's so much, I should say, simpler and easy. I hate saying easy. It's easier to get things set up
Mm-hmm.
to be able to find deals, right? That doesn't mean the work is easier. You still have to put the work in, but yeah. So I set out to be like, look, I want to make this simple. I want to make it a simple business that's not overcomplicated. That's not trying to do everything. Because I think that was part of where I went wrong. Just my personality was like the shiny object, trying to do everything. Like we talked already about the marketing, right? Like wrapping buses and doing this and doing that. Like you can get lost in the weeds really quick and distracted. So I was like, look, I'm going to focus on like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 marketing channels. And that's it. I'm going to hire a data provider that's going to give me all my data, right? So my data comes in from a third party company. I've set things up with my marketing providers. So it's just a very simple business to run that I don't need to go take on a partner. I don't need to go hire a COO, honestly, because it's a very simple process and a very simple
Can I ask
business.
you what marketing channels you focused on?
Yeah. So initially I was doing direct mail. Direct mail has always worked great for us. It's always been a good channel. So direct
And to be
mail.
clear, guys, when it comes to direct mail, I want to, for those that have never run any type of direct mail campaign, it's going to be a combination of different types of mailers. It's going to be postcards. It's going to be check mailers. It's going to be, you know, handwritten. There's going to be a variation because one seller might appeal to a postcard. Another seller might appeal to a check mailer, and a check mailer almost looks like it's a professional bank written printed check. That's kind of an estimated offer for their property. And so the one thing I will say though is guys, direct mail can be death by 1,000 cuts, meaning that it's not just sending out one mail piece per address. It's building a campaign around that address. So you've got to send anywhere from 4, 5, 6, 7 different pieces of mail over a period of a few months. And it's again, be very careful. Make sure you're using a mail provider that actually can help you track your campaigns, because you don't want to just be sending out mail willy-nilly and not tracking that. Anyway, Clay, I just wanted to just preface that.
And I'm glad you brought that up because and the hard part too here is that like I was coming into this already having all this experience and knowledge, right? So for a new investor, this is a lot harder, right? To figure out. But again, even then, like data providers, we use, just full transparency, I use 80/20 REI. So they're our data provider. There's others out there, but they provide all of my lists. So I literally don't pull any other list. I don't have a VA that's pulling lists from counties, from ListSource, from PropStream, from any other source. I'm just keeping it simple, right?
That's Jesus, right? It's a Jesus?
Yeah, Jesus Toledo. Yeah.
They used to have a SMS platform. That's when I signed up with them. But so go on.
They used to handle SMS as well, but now they just do data. So anyway, and they manage a lot of that. Like you're talking about the cadence, how often to mail to them. Like they literally handle all of it. They literally send you every month a list and it's already pre-sorted. Like they've already done all the work. So with that's again, like I said, nowadays it's so much easier. You don't have to like figure all this out if you have the budget. But again, that's what it comes down to, having the budget to do it.
So direct mail.
Do direct mail. That was I think one of the first ones I started with, direct mail. And then shortly after that, I started doing cold text. Cold texting, which is there's been debate back and forth on that for different groups, but honestly, I'll say this: I still do it. It's been about 2 years now. It's our highest ROI of any other marketing channel. Highest ROI because it's so inexpensive to do.
When you're doing SMS, are you doing bulk blasting, or are you doing more sniper focused, like foreclosures and stuff like that?
It's still to the targeted lists, right? So it's just, we're not just opening up a phone book, right? It's the data. So data provided by 80/20, but currently we're hitting about 120,000 contacts a month.
Wow. That's great.
And I do have a team, a VA team in Bangladesh that handles it all for me, but they do all the texting. So on average, I'm probably getting 40 to 50 leads a week. Now, again, a lot of these leads aren't great.
They're outbound. Yeah. We've talked about
they're
that.
outbound texts, right? So that, it's a lot of work, but yeah, the cost is so low that it's still viable and makes sense. Right. So yeah, cold texting. Then shortly after that, I added in cold calling because again, we've done cold calling in the past. I had, a company that has the Costa Rican expats that are callers. So I only have 2 full-time cold callers currently. And again, it's a marketing channel that's worked. It's pretty consistent.
It makes sense because it's kind of like a small bolt-on that if you're already doing SMS, you're already skip tracing the phone numbers, you're already getting that contact info. So putting like, a VA, a virtual assistant on a dialer for, 40 hours a week to potentially bring in 5, 10, 15, 20 more leads per week, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's low management because again, I have a company that finds and hires the cold caller and manages them. Right. So again, when I talk about simplicity here, I'm talking about outsourcing a lot of things that a person that will try to do that all themselves could be overwhelmed. Right. Even the cold texting, it's a company that already handles it.
It's so good. What you're saying to me right now is like tickling my funny bone because from building out a business and building out an acquisition team, it is such a hassle to be like, all right, let me get my 10 DLC approved. Let me get my phone numbers approved. Let me do all this stuff. And that's where it kind of sucks for a newer investor that doesn't have a lot of money because they kind of do have to get into the trenches. They do have to figure that stuff out. But for you, you understand what the return on investment is, right? You understand the dollar cost of if you're going to get into the trenches yourself and you're going to get all your phone numbers approved and then that number is a spam and then you got to swap it out. You're wasting so much time when you should just be focusing on getting leads in the door, calling those leads, converting those leads, closing those deals. That is what you, the entrepreneur, needs to be focused on. So if you guys are not hearing this by this point, guys, Clay is literally giving you the secret code to once you've got your first deal or you've got marketing budget, be able to afford spending money on systems. This is the right way to go. Don't try to, take it upon yourself. Like the truth is you should never be changing your own oil in your car.
Yeah.
You should hire a house cleaner. You should hire a private chef. Like that's where the difference between a solopreneur and an actual multi-billionaire, they're not wasting time microwaving their own food.
Yeah. But again, like I said, I didn't start with all those marketing channels. Even though I've done them in the past, I know they work. I have to make sure that the revenue is coming in before I can justify spending more money and just going out and spending money on all these marketing channels. Right. So that's what I did. I literally spent, hey, I'm going to focus on one. I'm going to get a couple deals in the door. And then we knew how to do deals. We already have a buyer's list, right? So I knew how to do all that. I was doing dispo myself, even early on doing acquisitions myself, but I soon hired an acquisition person. So that was kind of my first hire. But yeah, just waiting until revenue was there until I could justify, okay, now I have enough funds, then I'm going to add the next marketing channel in and refine that, make sure it's running automated and it's good. Okay, now I'll add the next one in, right? So it's not like right off the bat, I have to go figure out 10 marketing channels,
Yep. Okay. So other than direct mail, which is an inbound lead, which is, we value inbound leads more than outbound, obviously. Is there any other inbound campaigns that you're running?
Yeah. PPC.
Perfect. So PPC, you have your own campaign. You've got your own, Abode Homebuyers. And I see it, by the way. I see it on Google when I do it as well. And so that is, let me ask you this. Are you managing it in-house or did you also get
that's outsourced? I have a provider that manages that. So I literally don't manage any of the marketing.
So your job, I'm going to repeat this for the people in the back. Your job is to literally make sure the leads that are coming in are being called, are being followed up with, offers are being sent, and deals are being made. That's it.
Yes. Yeah. The highest and best use of your time, whether you're someone in my position as a COO or CEO or a one-man show, the highest and best use of your time is being on the phone with sellers, or refining your sales skills, or you're refining your sales team's skills, right? So like once leads are coming in, depending on the quality of the lead, I don't care. Like the best thing you can do is be on the phone or be in person with those people and constantly working on your sales skills. Like you said at the beginning, we're a sales and marketing company. You really have to think of it like that. You can't think of it as, oh, I'm a real estate guy, I go out and do deals. It's like, no, you're a sales and marketing company. You have to act like that. Right.
Okay. So you go back into this, you're like, I'm going to rebuild the business. I know in my brain what my first hire would be, aside from lead generation, aside from getting leads in the door. I know what mine would be. I'm just curious, did you start off with a hire in mind, or did you start off when you rebuilt the business? Were you solo, or did you hire people right away? Hey, real quick, let me pause you. I just wanted to take a quick moment to remind our audience about our private community, the Investor Semester. And right now, if you're listening to or watching this episode for just $1 to check it out, you're going to get access to a nationwide network of investors and the opportunity to partner with me directly on your wholesale and your creative finance deals. You'll also get weekly live education, the tools and the contracts that we use in the business, and the ability to buy and sell your deals without fighting the stupid Facebook algorithms. Go to investorsemester.com and sign up. Now back to the show.
This time around, I did hire someone right away, just because, again, I've already been through it. I already know how to train. I know what the expectations are. But again, if I'd been starting from scratch, I obviously wouldn't go do that from day one. Right. And luckily I already had a guy that was working with us when we were doing the commercial deals. So I kind of switched him over. I'm like, hey man, we're stopping that. We're going to start I'm doing wholesaling again. So actually we had 2 employees at the time. One went with Brian, one went with me. We kind of chose like, hey, I want this guy. You take that person.
You take the children.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was great. But yeah, so from the beginning, I did have an acquisition guy, and full transparency. For me, it was good to have an acquisition guy because I'm not the best salesman. And I recognize that. So I learned that early on in my career. Like I was trying to do it all myself. And the second I hired a good sales guy and he was crushing it, and I was like, whoa, he's way better than I am. Talking to sellers, in-person appointments. Like I'm more of an introvert, kind of behind the scenes. But so as soon as I realized that, I'm like, I know I need a good sales guy who's going to do better than I am and free up my time to work on building the business. Right.
So it's funny. I know my weakness, and my weakness is in the follow-up game, right?
Yes.
So for me, my first hire would always be a lead manager because I actually enjoy sales. I enjoy getting on the phone. What I enjoy is the last phone call.
Yeah.
Not the ones leading up to it, not the 10 follow-ups for 6 months. I enjoy the last call of saying, oh, you're ready to sell? Well, great. Let's talk about your property and let's make you an offer. Right. And so what I tell a lot of my students, and I tell a lot of people in general in this business when they're starting off, your first seat that you should ever hire is going to be lead generation, right? In the beginning, let's say you're broke, you have no money. You are unfortunately going to be the person that's going to be putting in the sweat equity to be able to cold call yourself, SMS yourself, write handwritten letters, whatever it may be. You've got to generate leads. And as soon as you have capital that's coming in and you've generated some revenue, your first thing that you should outsource is going to be lead generation.
I agree with that actually, because my acquisition guy, he was doing lead management as well. So in the beginning, I had him doing both. Like you're working a lead that comes in and you're going out on the appointment. And whether that's the right thing or not, I don't know. But I did have them doing that until I could bring on a lead manager. That was my next hire.
Let me ask you this. So for me, obviously creative finance, I'm super heavy with it. And I know that you dabble in it. I know you always have, but I also remember years ago, you guys were just cash offers, right?
Yeah. That's originally what we did. Yeah. Back in the day, until we kind of like you met up, with Pace, saw what he was doing, brought him out to one of our meetups, and it blew my mind. And that's kind of when we started, probably in 2019 or so, 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once you brought in creative finance into the picture, your acquisition guy, was he also giving creative offers or?
Yes. Yep. So I've trained now. Our team is all trained on creative finance, how to make creative offers. Yep. That's part of our training.
See, now you have a skill set that I don't possess. And I'm going to be honest here. Whenever I train an acquisition person about creative finance, what I'm essentially doing is I'm sealing my fate that person is going to be leaving me. And I'm curious, like when I keep them on cash offers only, like I've got a saying in my business, like, don't talk about creative finance in front of the children. Right. And so once I bring in subject to seller finance and I bring in that conversation, what essentially it's doing for the acquisition team is it's giving them an easier path to follow. It's not as uncomfortable to give a lowball cash offer. So they go, well, if I can just give you more than your asking price, how does that sound? I'm just curious for you, creative finance being such a strong tool on your tool belt today. Have you experienced that before with any acquisition people?
No, not specifically to creative finance. That's interesting because over the years I've had, plenty of people leave us. Even had 2 employees kind of like, leave us and go start their own thing. But ironically now all of those people that have left us, with the exception of maybe one, has gotten out of real estate or isn't doing deal, right?
Got it.
They realize how hard it is, right? And I would say the same thing about creative finance. Sure, yeah, you have another tool in your tool belt, but you still need leads coming in.
Right.
Still need a process behind either wholesaling those leads or raising capital to buy those leads, or unless you have an infinite amount of money that you're willing to use, to buy those creative finance deals. So I don't know. In my mind, it's just for me, it's just added another tool in their tool belt to help us do more deals. But I haven't necessarily seen them learning it and being like, oh, sweet, I'm going to go off on my own. And I'm very honest with people. I'm like, hey, man, you can go off and when I hire someone, I'm like, just give me a year. Give me a year. Commit to me for a year. You're going to learn everything you want. And if at that point you feel like you want to go and do this on your own after seeing what it takes to do this consistently, do deals consistently, then sure, go off on your own. But I can promise you're going to see that it may be better just collect a check, get my salary plus my commission, and be around people that are doing deals,
That's a really good point you make. Let me backtrack and rewind for a second. When I teach somebody about creative finance, you made a really good point that when you are going to enter into a creative finance deal, it typically takes capital, right?
Yeah.
It's what we call an entry fee. And so whether it be catching up the arrears or whether it be putting money into the seller's pocket that they need some of their equity out of it firsthand, there is going to be a cost to you. It could be super, super low. I mean, I've got creative finance deals for free, but also I'd say the average is maybe $20,000 to $30,000.
Exactly. Yeah.
Somewhere around there. And so that makes perfect sense that they do have to have that capital available. But I will say this, Clay, when I show my acquisition team that, let's say we do a team door knocking trip and they watch me just find a list of foreclosures, go knocking on the door, and we lock up a deal and make $60,000 assignment, they go, huh, that's all it took, huh?
Yeah. To me, it's how many years of skill did it take you to learn how to do that?
Right.
So hopefully, and if they want to leave and they think they can do it on their own, then they'll leave. Right. But ideally they'd see the value in working with you and in being around you and being on your team. And I hope that's the idea of a business owner. You want to provide enough value and culture that people stick around. I don't expect people to be lifelong employees of mine. I don't. It's just not realistic. Most people in the industry and real estate, and especially Utah, as you know, everyone here is an entrepreneur, everyone. So if I get a year or two out of an employee, that's my expectation.
Let me ask you this. This is a leadership skill question, something that I know that you and Brian possess that I just quite frankly, I'm not good at. Do you keep your employees in a vacuum for their position? Because for me, the unfortunate part, I love teaching, right? And it's a blessing and a curse. I love teaching. And so if I have an acquisition person, I love sharing with them how we're sending out mailers and what mailers we're sending. I'm almost educating them on how to build their own business. But I also know from experience, talking to other people that have been, working with you and stuff like that, you guys keep them in a pretty good vacuum. And I'm just curious, how do you approach that? I would love to hear about that.
Yeah. I think I don't necessarily go and teach them the ins and outs of all the systems behind the marketing, right? I mean, they'll ask and say, they obviously see the mail pieces and these are the mail pieces we send out. And this is how many I'm sending out. And I answer questions. It's not like I'm hiding anything.
Right.
In fact, I'm very transparent in our team meetings. They'll pull up our expenses, our income, hey, here's this month, how much I spent on mailers. In fact, I do that on purpose because I think a lot of people expect, oh, we did $100,000 in revenue this month. Dude, Clay's killing it. I'm like, oh, let's go over the P&L. Let's see how much I spent on marketing, on software, on your salaries, plus, federal wages and taxes. And they're like, oh, this month, actually, I made more than you, Clay. I'm like, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
So I don't know, for them, they start seeing oh, this is what it takes to run a business. And more than anything, they realize, and I'll have conversations with them. They're like, yeah, I have no interest in being in your seat. I have no interest in doing what you're doing. I'm happy with what I'm doing. So yeah, I haven't really, I don't know if it's a vacuum that I put them in, but I really want them to focus and feel confident in their role. Your role is this. I'll handle everything else. I'll make sure you are getting leads. But once that lead comes in, that's when I need you to be at your best and perform at your best.
Love that.
Yeah.
All right. So I know that you've got passion in raising private capital. So I'd love to pivot the conversation just a little bit. Obviously, guys, if you ever need to reach out to Clay on social media, Clay, what's your handle?
At Clay Rockwood.
At Clay Rockwood. If you ever have any questions for him, feel free to send him a DM on Instagram. But I want to pivot a little bit more towards private capital because that's something that I can see is more passionate in your life. And I know
Yeah.
that you've also raised so much capital. And again, when you're doing commercial deals, you can't really come in with $10,000 and buy a multi-unit complex. So why don't we talk about real quickly, if a new investor is starting up a wholesale business and they're looking now for private capital, and we do it all the time, whether it's going to be a renovation, we might be finding hard money to be in first position and then private capital to be in the renovation position, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
What's something that a new investor can do to prove credibility when they may not have done many deals?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was going to say credibility always drives interest in money, right? Like people are more interested in you if they've seen you do deals. In fact, that was how the guy that's now funds most of our flips, he's funded a majority of our rentals that we've owned together here locally in Utah. He started as my hard money lender. He was just a hard money lender that like I convinced to lend me money on a deal, and he saw it went well. And we did multiple deals for years. And again, years after that, until he approached me and said, "Hey, Clay, like, I love what we've been doing. You've made me a lot of money, but I'm seeing that you're buying rentals and like cash flowing. He's like, I want to be involved in that. I'll fund 100% of the purchase, everything, if we can just partner on deals."
Cool.
On rentals.
So he's an equity partner?
Yeah, he's an equity partner, not in my business, but on like, if we buy a rental or a multifamily or something, he'll be an equity partner. So, but again, that took years of me proving that I knew what I was doing well, and he was making good money. So that's one piece. For a new investor, how do you build credibility? I think having the wisdom to go in and pitch someone with a good business plan and having thought through all the strategies. So I always like, when I was raising money for our bigger deals, I think the most we ever raised on one deal was $4.7 million for these mobile home parks we bought in Kentucky. So I'm pitching guys, family offices, people that have a lot of money, and people didn't have a lot of money. But when you're going in to pitch to raise money, you have to have answers to questions. You have to have a plan figured out, right? So if they say, well, what happens if, you guys don't hit your projections? What then? Say, well, that's a great question. Here's option B. Here's what we do. And here's my 3 exit scenarios. Exit A is ideal. Exit B is this. Exit C is this. I figured it all out. Here's all the numbers. We've underwritten it. And so like, you kind of have a business plan figured out, and they're like, oh, you've actually thought through this and you know what you're doing. Or you have people that you know what they're doing. Right. And I've always pitched this in our meetups with in the past coaching students, is that you don't have to know everything, but you have to have good contacts that can help. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if I didn't know everything and I had to create a finance deal, who would I call? And in fact, I've called you. I've called Jeremy before. Like, hey, Jeremy, I got this weird creative finance deal. Like, can you help me out? Because you're the pro at that, right? Like, don't be scared to leverage the experience of other people and have other people on your team, right? So I think that's where a lot of investors, they're scared. New investors, they're scared. They don't want to ask for help. They don't want to seem weak or unknowledgeable. But if someone brought me a deal and said, Clay, I want to get into real estate, or Jeremy, I want to get into real estate. I've got this deal. Would you partner with me? Would you help me out just to even give me credibility and guide me through this? And I'll leverage your experience, right? Help me raise money, whatever. Like, I think that's a good way to start. So partnering with people, JVing with people, right? That's how you're going to get an entry point.
That is literally why I put together the investor semester. It's not only going to be a community, based platform, but the people that want to work with me, whether they want to work with me one-on-one or they want to work with me in a group session, what I'm doing is teaching them how to do deals for like not guru prices. I'm making it super affordable, where it's like, hey, listen, if you back out, I get it, but at least you're not wasting my time. Yeah. But then the goal is we JV on a deal together. And that's my hope, is that you will generate a lead and you will call me up and say, hey, Jeremy, can you help me structure this offer? And then we do deals together, and like, that's a win-win for everybody. And so, no, I appreciate those kind words. Well, let me ask you this question though. There's so many lenders out there right now. We call them transactional lenders, where they're looking to just put money into deals and they don't even understand how to underwrite the deal themselves. You made a really good point about what is your exit strategy. Now, if it's a simple renovation, okay, and the numbers are amazing, guess what? You don't need to have 2 or 3 different exits. Your hard money lender, your private lender is going to see the numbers. It's going to make perfect sense. Hey, You're getting the property at 150,000. It needs 100,000 in work and ARV is 500 grand. Worst case scenario, the lender has to foreclose on you and they already have 100,000 of equity built in.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer for them. But when you're doing more commercial deals, let's say you're doing mobile home parks,
Yeah.
where you've got to do value add, right? You've got to add different pads and electric and plumbing and all that stuff. And this is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's going to be at least a 24-month period, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. More like 3 to 5 years. Yeah.
Exactly. So now you got to find people that are okay putting their money in on a deal that in 3 to 5 years, a literal asteroid can hit and everything can change.
Yeah.
So you've got to predict all of the what ifs, and then you got to provide like, hey, if this happens, we've at least force appreciated it this much and we're going to put it on the market and sell it for this. Or we're going to try to go to a DSCR lender and we're going to try to get it approved for what the rent roll would be. And will it cover enough of the mortgage? And then now we've refinanced out, we get you your money and all that kind of stuff. For a newer investor that is looking to go to a slightly larger asset class, maybe it's going to be a duplex, maybe it's going to be a sixplex, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
How do you have them, I guess, predict the 2 to 3 different exit strategies if all they see in their, and you said, of course, leverage other people, but for them, if they're talking to a seller, what should they be looking out for when they're having the negotiations, the financial negotiations with that seller to go, okay, obviously this is our goal, but we've got backup plans. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 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 I mean, when I talk about exit strategies, like for one, it's like, okay, I can flip this, like just get out of it. And if I do that, like we buy it, we put some money in, just look at it as a flip, right? Can I get out and still pay my lender? Can I pay my investors? Can I break even? Right. So there's the flip exit strategy. There's obviously the buy and hold. Okay. What if we have to just keep this long term? Right? Like market takes, and we have to hold on to this for 5, 7, 10 years. Well, okay, what does my underlying debt look like? Like, I don't want to be on a loan that's an adjustable rate mortgage where every year my, rates go up. So like I look at debt, and they give assurances to, again, our investors about what does our debt structure look like? Is our loan good? Or are we getting into a bad loan situation where, if the interest rates rise to 12% and I'm on an adjustable rate mortgage, well, crap, my cash flow just got killed because my rate just went up. So fixed rate debt, right? So looking at if we did have to hold this, can we cash flow? Can we ride out the storm, right? Sure, you may not get your money back, Mr. Investor, but we'll be okay in the long run. So again, looking at it as a flip, as a long-term hold. And then really, I mean, just the honest truth is you can't predict everything.
Right.
Right. And that's when you're raising capital, going back to that, there's only so much you can predict. There's only so much you can underwrite. At the end of the day, there's risk. There's risk, right? That's why wholesaling is a beautiful thing, because they're very low risk. But if you're going to start flipping homes, if you're going to start buying rentals, you have to understand there's a level of risk, and you can't understand everything. Like, I mean, just full transparency, like we've lost, oh my gosh, I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars on flips over the years. Just bad contractor. We didn't run the numbers right. Didn't this or that. The market changed. Even on our bigger deals, there's a 12-plex that we own here in Utah that we bought for an amazing deal. We hired a contractor that we never worked with. He basically stole money from us. We had another contractor on the same deal. Same thing. Stole money from us. Like, we're now upside down on this deal, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Right. So like, as much as I want to say, oh, I'm so good at this, I've been doing this for 15, 17 years. I still make mistakes and there's still risk involved. Right. So I don't know if that answers your question. It's just,
it does.
You have to know what you're getting into when you have these different exit strategies, depending on what you want to do. And that's why I say that the lowest barrier of entry is either sub 2, like or wholesale type stuff, where it's like, okay, I get my feet wet, very low risk. But if I'm going to go out and start buying bigger deals, like you got to know what you're doing. You got to understand the risks involved with it.
I think this is a learning lesson moment. You said something that you went through that I also went through myself, is when contractors steal money. Okay. This is obviously not a fix and flip podcast episode, but it's just something to, be aware of. For me, I had to let go of 2 project managers. They were working together, a GC project manager. And this is actually another reason I had to let go of one of my COOs, This was a new hire. The COO was super rambunctious in sharing with them that we locked up these 2 deals at insanely low prices. And so he goes, and I'm not there. If I had heard this conversation, I would have smacked him across the head and said, "Shut, stop talking." But he goes, "What do you think we got this for?"
Oh,
and the guy's like, "I don't know, 300,000." He goes, $110,000.
oh my gosh.
And I go, "No, what did you just do?" And it's funny that both of those deals, I actually closed those deals earlier this year, and we netted after paying everything off, we netted $377,000. However, both of those deals, one of them went over by $140,000,
Jeez.
and another one went over by $60,000. So I could have made a lot more, but like, just a little tip to you guys, if you're listening, your contractors are not your friends.
No,
they are never your friends, and not at all. And I hate to say that they're all going to steal from you, but if they know you've got a $200,000 or $300,000 spread on your deal,
yeah,
that tile is going to cost you more.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They're going to capitalize on that for sure.
Yeah. So, okay. I got a couple more questions that are kind of like the same question, but a little bit different. And it kind of follows with what you were just saying. What mistakes do you think people are making when they're pitching deals to investors, and how can they avoid them? And then also, how do you structure deals that are really a win-win for both you and your investors? Are you doing GP LP shares, or are you just doing like a flat interest rate? How are you doing that?
Yeah. So ask your first question again.
First question is, let me see right here.
Sorry. I was also focused on your second question. I forgot.
I know. What mistakes do people make when pitching deals, and how can they avoid those mistakes?
I think the number one would be it's 9 times out of 10 when people are pitching me a deal. Like, I get pitched deals all the time for people that want to raise money and stuff. And I've done some hard money lending and stuff. It's not a good deal. Like, it has to, that should be just like a given, but newer investors, especially, they get like caught up in this hype of like, oh, I got this off market deal. Just because it's off market doesn't mean it's a good deal. Or just because you want it to be a good deal doesn't mean it's a good deal. Like, the numbers cannot lie, and they do not lie.
Yep.
Like, in my mind, a truly good deal, if you have that, the money will recognize it. Right. People that have money are typically smart. Right. And they know what they're doing. That's how they've earned money, especially if they have a lot of money. Right. So they're not dumb. So yeah, first thing, you just have to focus on getting an actual good deal, and don't waste people's time with crappy deal after crappy deal after crappy deal. Like, that's how you burn investors quickly.
One of my students, this is funny you bring this up, newer student. She's amazing. I love her. Her heart's in the right place. She calls me randomly this morning, about 10 minutes before my team meeting. And I answer and I go, "Hey, what's going on?" She goes, "I've got a deal." And I'm like, "Okay, like, let's hear about it."
Yeah.
And she goes, "It was, I think, brought to me by a wholesaler." So already negative number one. Okay. And it's funny that you said yourself, you get a lot of deals brought to you. Same with me. Right. And so I already know kind of like which questions I'm going to ask in which order. I say, okay, it's from a wholesaler. Is it currently on the market? She says, yes. I go, okay, that's red flag number 2. And then I say, what's the entry fee? And she goes, only $5,000. And I go, really? I go, what's the sale? She goes, subject to. And I'm like, okay, so now my ears are perked. I go, only $5,000 on a subject to. And then I ask the next question. What's the mortgage balance? 377. What is the current value of the property? 600,000. Already now something breaks in my brain. I go, okay, something's wrong here. Why is, if they only want $5,000 and the current value is 600 and the mortgage balance is 377, something is not right here.
Yeah, something's not right.
And so I go, okay, hold on a second. So you're telling me that it's only $5,000 to get in on this deal? She goes, well, that's the wholesale fee. I go, oh, does the seller want anything? And she goes, yeah, the seller wants $250,000.
Oh my gosh.
I'm glad you're laughing at that.
Great, dude.
Yeah. So guys, AKA what she basically explained to me was there is a retail seller that is probably having a hard time with their property selling. It's been sitting on the market for a while. They're open to doing subject to, meaning keeping their mortgage in place, but they want all of their equity out of the deal.
Yeah.
So this would cost me $255,000 to get into a deal that, oh, the rental rate is $2,100. This would be, I may as well just light my own house on fire and just watch it burn. And so I did not, say it to her in this way, like, no, that's a terrible deal. But I said, hey, we've got to work on you underwriting. We've got to work on you identifying what a deal is. And so I told her, I said, we're going to spend more time on this, working at this together, because there are so many red flags that were said from start of that conversation. And if you're listening to this episode right now, guys, if you are a brand new investor, this is your only job. Well, I take that back. 2 jobs. 1, find a motivated seller. And number 2, start understanding what a basic deal needs to look like to make it into a good deal. That's it.
Yeah. And that's funny. Yeah. If we're talking about subject to and seller finance transactions, like, it's funny. I've told my team this too, but like they'll do the same thing. Hey, I just talked to the seller and pitched sub to, here's the terms. It's like, yeah, he wants 150 grand down and this and this and this. And I'm listing all these numbers and his rate's 7%. We can take it over for 3 years. I'm like, I just asked him, would you want to do that deal? Is that a deal you would do? And they're like, well, probably not. Would you want to, if you had 150 grand, is that what you'd put your money into? No. Well, then why would anyone else? Right? Like, so like, that's the basic, just, would you do this deal? Like in your gut, does that feel like makes sense? No. Second is, we have kind of thresholds like, okay, down payment. We don't want to put more than 20, 30, 40, 50,000 down, maybe. Right? So it's like, you kind of have some of these benchmarks. So like, if it's more than that, it's probably not a deal. Payment, it has to cash flow, right? If it doesn't cash flow, it doesn't make sense. Term, it has to be more than a year or 2 years. It's got to be a minimum 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. Otherwise, we're not going to look at it. So once you start having some basics, like I don't budge on these things because it just doesn't make sense. It won't be a deal, right? And once you kind of have that framework, then it's much easier to analyze deals and in a 2 minutes be like, okay, that's not going to work, right?
Yeah. It's also, by the way, I will say, I've seen your team do something that annoyed me so bad, but it was amazing that you did it. There was a seller that we were competing against that was willing to let their property go for, I think it was something like $2,000 in their pocket. And they were going to let me take it over, subject to clean. They were going to walk away from it. And you guys got them under contract and you blasted it out to your buyers list for like a $25,000 assignment, and you got it sold.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's also, again, I'm annoyed because I'm like, damn it, I was trying to take it myself because it was such a good deal. But what you guys did was you guys actually leveraged that. Maybe for you, something might not be a deal because you're more conservative like I am, but for another buyer that might be needing a tax offset or something like that, they may be willing to. So, little learning lesson for you guys. If you are running a wholesale operation and you do have a disposition process, meaning you can blast out deals, there's nothing that's going to hurt if you can get a deal under contract. Even if it may not be the perfect looking deal, there might still be a buyer out there. And so for you, Clay, you guys made $20,000 off that. And since you probably were already talking to the seller and the seller already agreed to just take 2,000, you're like, well, what if I can give you 5,000?
Yeah.
Right. And so it is something to be aware of, that while it may not be a perfect deal for you, it might be a better deal for somebody. And to that, I want to really quickly pivot. I'd love to know your approach, Clay, on the hot topic today is co-living, pad split, things like that. I'm very much against it. And the reason I am, and I'm not trying to lead the witness, but I'm very much against it, where in some markets, like major metropolitan areas, it might play to your advantage where you're going to be basically creating a motel. But I see that co-living has only become a crutch to investors that have not learned how to structure real deals or find real motivated sellers, to where they're never going to be able to make a cash flowing opportunity from a long-term position. So the only thing they can do is make that 7% interest rate into a co-living opportunity.
Yeah.
Just curious, like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, I feel like, it is a buzzword right now, almost similar to like what Airbnb was, where, I mean, there's a market here in Utah. I've seen a lot in Southern Utah, where so many people were paying inflated prices for properties because they could Airbnb them out and make, justify it. Say, well, I'll overpay for this. because I have the Airbnb revenue. Well, now that revenue has completely stopped. And now I'm seeing so many deals down there that are upside down. People are trying to sell. They're losing a ton of money. I feel like co-living may kind of go through that similar process where it gets saturated, or regulations. Like, I mean, I look at it the same way I look at, we get properties all the time where the seller is renting out like the basement or something. He's like, oh, well, this is a duplex, so I'm going to value it as a duplex. I'm like, okay, well, does the county and the city view it as a duplex? No, it's a single family.
Right.
So if I were a traditional buyer, if I went to go sell this to a traditional buyer, could they get a loan based on the value as a duplex? No, because it's going to be valued by a lender as a single family home. Right. So I feel like there's some stuff like that you could get into the weeds and get caught with your pants down, like on co-living. If you're like, sweet, I'm renting out this by the room. Well, what if you go to sell that and now the person buying it's getting a loan and they're like, well, we're not valuing this based off your income because it's not legal. Right. We're valuing this based off what it is. This is just a house and you have a bunch of bedrooms, right? So co-living to me it's never been a strategy I've been into, and I don't anticipate getting into it at all. To be honest.
I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. Well, guys, I feel like we've been at this for a while. Clay is a plethora of knowledge, and I really love him being on there. So, Clay, there's a pop quiz question that I have for everybody that I have on here. Okay.
Right.
And it is, what is a common piece of advice that you think new investors should ignore?
Ooh, that's interesting. The common piece of advice that investors should ignore. I think, and we were kind of talking about this a little bit offline before we started, but that getting into real estate, whether that's sub 2, wholesale, flipping, anything, is easy and you're going to get a deal right away. Like, I feel like a lot of gurus out there pitch that just because they're trying to sign you up for their course.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if this is kind of a weird way to answer your question, but ignore the thought that this business is easy and it's going to make me millions of dollars within my first year.
So you're telling me I can't retire from my W-2 in 12 months and I can't get a Lamborghini and
that's not true. And I think it's important to know that and to be brutally honest, right, with people, because a lot of people will do that. They'll go quit their job and be like, I'm all in, but I need a paycheck in the next month. I'm like, dude, go get a job. You're not, it takes work. It takes patience. It takes persistence. And really, to me, that's the big separator here from successful people like you and others, is consistent, daily, disciplined action will get you results, but it's not overnight. It could be months. And then it flows into years. So the fallacy is that it's not a get rich quick thing. It's a yes, there's a lot of money to be made. And especially when you start hearing like, oh yeah, I did a wholesale deal, I made $60K. It's like, dude, I don't want to do that. It's like, okay, well, let's back up all that it took to get to that point. Right. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think it's just for a new investor, for anyone wanting to be in this game and real estate in general, you have to understand what it takes. It takes time. It takes persistence. It takes disciplined action. And I mean, sadly, I look at a lot of people that get super excited. Like, I've had students in the past. I used to coach like yourself. I remember I did a free, sorry, this is a longer answer than you wanted, but
no, good.
Initially I signed up 10 people. I was like, I will help you for free, no cost. I will walk you through and I'll do almost a daily or every other day, a call with you. I'll help get you through this. And all these people were so gung-ho at first and 100% committed. I'm in this, dude. I'm doing it. I'll make the cold calls. I'll do whatever. I'll go pound the pavement. After 2 weeks, every single one of them had stopped.
Yep.
Because they realized, oh, this is actually hard. This actually takes work. Like, yeah. That's what this is.
I had a door knocking army that started off at 48. By week number 2, it went down to 8. And then by week number 3, it was done.
Yeah. So to me, that's I don't know if it's the fallacy that a lot of people get into this thinking it's a breeze, it's easy. It's not, but it is very rewarding if you learn it, you stick with it, and you get good mentors like Jeremy who can walk you through. It'll skip 2 or 3 years of just banging your head against the wall to set you up for success. But you have to understand what it's going to take. It's going to take sacrifice, it's going to take persistence, but it's honestly, it's such a rewarding business. That's why I'm still doing it.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. So in summary, the grass is not greener on the
No.
other side.
No, it's not.
Love it, bro.
Yeah.
Amazing, man. Guys, this has been Clay Rockwood. He's located in Utah. Like he said before, his affiliate or his handle is Clay Rockwood. You guys have been listening to the Investor Semester podcast. Do not forget to leave a 5-star review. Please subscribe and feel free to share this episode with your friends if you found any value. We're going to see you guys on the next episode, but until then, keep grinding, keep making offers, and for God's sake, call your leads. We'll see you guys next time.